Visceral fat does not follow the rules you have been given. You have been eating less for months. No sugar, no fast food, no snacks after dinner. You walk every morning. You do almost everything you have ever been told to do. And the deep belly fat, the fat wrapped around your organs, is still exactly where it was. It clings, as if it has decided to become a permanent part of you. Here is what most people never find out. Visceral fat follows a different logic. It is not a storage tank that empties when you eat less. It is a hormonally locked vault. And calories alone are not the key. Later in this video, I will show you 5 specific everyday foods that work directly on the hormonal mechanism behind visceral fat. Not through calories, through biochemistry. And once you understand what these 5 things trigger in your body, you will never again equate dieting with fat loss. Oh! Sighed. The real problem is not your appetite. The real problem is insulin and its closest partner, cortisol. Think of insulin as the vault guard of your fat cells. As long as he is standing at his post, and he stands there around the clock when you are consistently eating sugar and fast carbohydrates, the vault stays locked. No fat comes out, not a gram. It does not matter how little you have eaten. And cortisol. Cortisol is insulin's best friend. Think of cortisol as your body's saber-toothed tiger alarm. An evolutionary emergency signal that stores energy under stress, not at the hips, not in the thighs, directly at the belly. Because visceral fat tissue contains significantly more cortisol receptors than any other fat tissue in your body. Obesity researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that visceral fat responds to cortisol far more strongly than subcutaneous fat. That is the biological reason why chronic stress specifically creates belly fat. Not hip fat, not leg fat, belly fat. This means your body hears cortisol and thinks there is a threat. So it stores fat at the belly as an emergency reserve. Your traffic jam on the way to work, your unread emails, your skipped lunch. All of that sends the same alarm every single day. The result, insulin keeps the vault locked, cortisol keeps refilling it. And that is only half the story. Because the mistake that makes the whole thing truly impossible, I am going to show you that right now. Oh! Sighed. They eat low-calorie, but they do not eat insulin-lowering. That is the mistake that roughly 99% of people make, and it quietly cancels everything else out. Here is what that looks like in real life. You have oatmeal for breakfast with banana slices and a small glass of orange juice. Sounds healthy. But inside your body, this is what happens. An insulin surge that drives your blood sugar upward within 20 minutes and keeps it elevated for 3 to 4 hours. The vault guard is wide awake. No fat is leaving. At lunch, rice cakes as a snack. Glycemic index, 82. White bread sits at 70. You are eating something that feels like sacrifice and simultaneously sending a stronger insulin signal than a slice of toast. In the evening, light fruit yogurt. Fructose has an exclusive VIP pass directly to your liver. No other organ wants to deal with it. The liver becomes overwhelmed, inflammatory markers rise, cortisol rises with them. Let me say that again clearly. You are eating low calorie. You believe you are doing the right things, but you are keeping your insulin artificially elevated all day long, and with it, you are keeping the visceral fat locked in. Every single day, you are fighting hard. But you are fighting at the lock, not at the cause. Here is the good news. You do not have to break the lock. You just need the right key. And that key consists of 5 foods that work daily, not occasionally, daily, directly on the hormonal mechanism behind visceral fat. not through calories, through biochemistry. Oh! Sighed. Step 1. Step 1. Have you noticed that after some meals you feel satisfied for hours, but after others you are hungry again within an hour, even though the portions were the same? Most people assume that is weak willpower or portions that were too small. Here is what most people never find out. Salmon, herring, mackerel. Fatty fish delivers EPA and DHA, two omega-3 fatty acids that intervene directly in your inflammatory cascade. They lower TNF-alpha and interleukin-6, two signaling molecules that actively worsen insulin resistance. Less inflammation means your body becomes more sensitive to insulin again. And insulin that no longer has to run at full throttle begins to fall. The vault starts to open. And there is a second mechanism. EPA and DHA may help moderate cortisol after acute stress, targeting the second part of the double lock at the same time. Not eating less, eating right. Oh! Sighed. Step 2. Have you ever noticed that the fullness you feel after avocado is different from the fullness after a carbohydrate-heavy meal? Calmer, longer, without that feeling of needing something again shortly after? Most people assume avocado simply keeps you full longer because of its fat content. But here is where it gets genuinely interesting. The oleic acid in avocado, a monounsaturated fatty acid, may help moderate the insulin rise after a meal. Not dramatically, but measurably and consistently every single day. A smaller insulin spike after eating means a weaker fat storage signal. The vault guard lowers his vigilance, exactly when avocado is on the plate. 12 weeks, no diet. That is not a coincidence. That is biochemistry. Oh! Sighed. Step 3. Have you ever used ginger as a spice without once thinking it might be doing something inside your fat metabolism? Most people see ginger as a cold remedy or a digestive aid. Here is what most people never find out. The bioactive compounds in fresh ginger, particularly 6-gingerol and 6-shogaol, activate an enzyme called AMPK. Think of AMPK as the master switch of your metabolism. When this switch is active, your body sends a clear signal to the fat cells: release energy, do not store it. That is the exact opposite of what chronically elevated insulin does. And ginger may also help reduce cortisol spikes after stressful situations, targeting the second part of the double lock simultaneously. 2 targets. 1 food. 1 food. In a single teaspoon of freshly grated ginger, not a supplement. Not a pill, fresh ginger. And that leads us directly to the next step, which goes deep into a cause most people completely overlook. Oh! Sighed. Step 4. Have you noticed that after some meals you feel hungry again an hour later, even though the portion was more than enough? Most people assume they simply did not eat enough. Pay close attention here. When you eat foods that contain resistant starch and soluble fiber, like red lentils, the release of glucose into the blood slows considerably. No steep rise, no deep crash, a flat, even curve. And a flat curve means less insulin release, less fat storage signal. The vault stays undisturbed. And there is a second mechanism. Lentils are fermented in the gut into butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that acts directly as an anti-inflammatory agent. And chronic low-grade liver inflammation is one of the most underestimated drivers of visceral fat. Butyrate fights it from the inside. Researchers at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that regular legume consumption was associated with significantly lower inflammatory markers and reduced visceral belly fat. Your gut is your strongest ally. And step 5 closes the circle. Oh! Sighed. Step 5. Have you ever drunk green tea as a simple pleasure without suspecting what it was doing inside your fat cells? Most people assume green tea works through caffeine or simply through the water it provides. This is the point where everything becomes clear. Green tea contains EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, a bioactive compound that directly activates thermogenesis. Think of EGCG as a switch inside the fat tissue itself that says, release energy and burn it. Research suggests this effect is particularly pronounced in visceral fat tissue, exactly the fat that sits deepest and is hardest to reach. EGCG works from the inside, directly at the visceral fat. 12 weeks, no exercise protocol, no diet. The visceral fat had nowhere to hide. One practical note: do not drink green tea immediately after eating. Tannins in tea may inhibit iron absorption from your meal. Wait at least 1 hour after eating before drinking it. And bonus tip, combine fresh ginger with green tea in a single infusion. AMPK activation and EGCG at the same time. 2 of the 5 tools in 1 glass. Oh! Sighed. These 5 foods are not a diet. They are not deprivation. They are biochemical tools for exactly the hormonal mechanism that locks visceral fat in place. Salmon lowers inflammation and may help moderate cortisol. Avocado dampens the insulin rise after meals. Ginger activates AMPK, the metabolic master switch. Red lentils stabilize blood sugar and protect the gut. Green tea activates thermogenesis directly in visceral fat tissue, daily. Not occasionally, daily. You came to this video frustrated. You had been doing everything right, or so you thought. Eating less, walking more, reading labels, choosing light options. And the belly fat stayed. Now you know why. It was never a calorie problem. It was a hormone problem. And the tools to address it have been available at any grocery store all along. Tomorrow morning, instead of oatmeal and orange juice, try 2 eggs with half an avocado and a cup of green tea brewed an hour before or after the meal. That is 1 shift. That is 1 shift. 1 shift is enough to start changing what your body does with the food it receives. Which of these 5 steps surprised you most? And which one have you been unknowingly skipping? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. You do not want to miss that. Subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified the moment it goes live. Oh! Sighed. Everything in this video is based on published research and personal experience with nutrition. It is not a replacement for individual medical advice. If you have a specific health condition or take medication, please speak with your doctor before making significant changes to your diet.